All right. Kamala Harris, talking to my colleagues here now. Apparently, she's doing something live on TikTok. So if somebody could go see if we can find that and put it up, I'd like to see that. She's done two interviews, Rachel Maddow last night and GMA, and most distinctive to me, again, as someone who's as expert in selling books as anything I'm expert at, she's not doing a particularly good job of selling the book. In part because she's pulling her punches. When the questioners have asked her about the newsiest parts of the book, she's not backing up what she said in the book. She seems reluctant to repeat some of the accusations she's made. So, for instance, with Rachel Maddow said, "I'm very disappointed that you suggested that the country wasn't ready to elect a black woman and a gay man," and picking Pete Buttigieg. And she said, "Oh, no, that's not really what I mean. What I mean is, I think it would have been tough." I mean, she didn't follow through. And then here's two examples from Good Morning America. First, she was asked about the phone call that she writes in the book that Joe Biden called her right before her debate with Donald Trump, and rather than just wishing her well, started to complain to her about his own grievances rather than tell the story. Here's what former Vice President Kamala Harris did on Good Morning America. Number 115, please.
He called me, and again, listen, this book, I am being candid in this book about,
but not in this
behind
interview,
the scenes, what happened. And in a way that I hope is helpful for people to understand what that all was. And part of that call that he made to me the afternoon before the debate was to wish me luck, but also to talk about something that was more in his interest than it was in mine, especially in the context of that time.
Dan, in the business, we call that a word salad. So she doesn't actually tell the story. She just kind of refers to the story, not a way to sell books. And here she is when asked about the question that she confronts to some extent in the book, which is her regret that she failed to raise the issue of the president's mental decline. Now, what she says in this interview is it's harder to run for president than to be president, which I can tell you makes no sense. Here's 116, please.
As we sit here today, do you think he would have been up for running the country for 4 more years?
Here's the distinction that I make. And having had the experience myself, it is one thing to have the capacity to govern. It is another thing to go through an election for president of the United States. So you are an athlete, you may appreciate this kind of metaphor. Running for president of the United States is like being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace with people throwing tomatoes at you every step you take. It is not for the lighthearted. It takes an incredible amount of endurance and stamina. And can you imagine doing it while you are also carrying literally the weight of the world as being president of the United States? So the distinction I make is about capacity to be president and what that election would require in that campaign, especially running against Donald Trump.
Yeah, and running against Trump, you had the big debate.
All right. Sean, what does the book tour so far tell you about her prospects of selling books and her prospects of leaving the door open to run for president?
Let me just say this. When I wrote my first book, my agent called me at one point during the draft and said, "Did that make you feel better?" Because I told a couple stories. And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, in 5 years, do you want that story to be hanging out there?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Then let's cut it." Like, this is the job of people around you, to read back what you write and say, are you prepared to back that up? Do you want that part of your legacy? And I cannot believe that they did this to her, that she was so naive to think that you could write this and no one would ask you, that you thought that you could attack a gay man for not being vice president and then go on an openly gay person's interview.
I love what you're saying, but just to clarify, she didn't attack him. She attacked the country. She attacked the voters.
No, that's her judgment. That's her.
Yeah.
So but she didn't attack.
But she didn't attack Pete Buttigieg. She said the country wouldn't vote for us. That's what she didn't attack him.
But again, it's still her judgment.
No, I understand. And
then
again,
you chose to go on Rachel Maddow, her show, to lead off your book tour. You didn't think she was going to bring that up?
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, I think you framed it perfectly. Dan, How could the staff not have said, like, somebody should have said to her, these are the stories. If you want to own these and tell them in a vivid way to sell books, please. But if you're gonna say the equivalent of nothing specific comes to mind or whatever she said on The View last year, like, don't put them in the book. It's ridiculous.
I think, I mean, look, she looks uncomfortable. She looks tentative. And what I see is she's heard the criticism and now she's trying to adjust, which is again part of her problem, which is she is so finger in the wind. She's so cautious. She's so tentative as just kind of a general operating style, that it's amazing that a book that you wrote, that you're putting out, that's part of your future, and you are spooked 48 hours into it or whatever.
You know what's funny? As you say this, Dan, I go back to Bob Dole, Mitt Romney, right? So Dole goes on, what was it, Mark? Letterman. And Mitt has this documentary come out, and people go, "Where was that candidate?" Right? They reflect on it and go, "God, that if they only." She actually reminds you why you didn't vote for her. She's like, you're like, "Oh, good. I'm glad I still didn't vote for her." These other guys, people go, "I wish I had known that," because they seem more likable, more relatable. She reinforces why people didn't like her post running.
Well, and I also think that she wants to run for president. And after that election, most Democrats bit their tongue. And I think, Sean, to your point, now that this is out, is all these Democrats are now coming out and they're just like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? But she still wants to run.
It's number 2 on Amazon currently. And again, there are not a lot of big books out this week. So she doesn't need to sell a lot to become a number 1 on the nonfiction list. But my question is, who's buying this book? Are Democrats who love her buying it?
I did. I want to read it today.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, people are going to read it.
Can you send it to me when you're done? I love a good political book, but I can't possibly.
Dan, do you buy hard copy books?
Yeah, it'll be.
I love a hard copy. Yeah, I was going to say Exhibit A.
All right, we'll keep tracking that, and I'll have excerpts from her sound bites from her appearance on The View today on Two-Way Tonight later.
Real quick, do we think rating her performance right now, A to F? How do you think she's going to do on The View?
I would say C-.
C, yeah, I was just going to say
I was going C-. I'm with you. To me, I mean,
does Joe Biden speak up by the end of the week?
I just
and Joe Biden speak up by the end of the week.
Someone's going to speak up on Joe Biden's behalf, I believe, by the end of the week. I don't think it'll be Joe Biden. I will say that I'll go back to what Bill Clinton said about Mitt Romney. It applies to Kamala Harris. That person should not have a job that requires them to speak in public.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.